Hey guys, our recording system made a boo-boo, and we actually did not get any video recorded for this episode. Now, because we know a couple of you guys really like listening to the podcast here on YouTube, we did not want to leave you out for this episode. So we unfortunately are just going to have to do the audio only. I hope you don't mind. We will be back next week with the full video version, and enjoy the rest of the episode. So, nothing's really happening. Do we even have anything to podcast about? I mean, it's just, they've been there for days and nothing's happened, Gowie.
I think everyone's ridiculous. Lost in the Opryland hotel.
Isn't there a theme park or something inside Opryland? Maybe they're all there.
Something like that. There's like
this sounds fun.
Rooms. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just sitting here just playing with a freaking paperclip. Like, I can't believe this thing hasn't broke yet.
You're practically like MLB GM.
Right?
Yeah.
I couldn't even find my fidget spinner, and I just went, you know what? Bottom of the barrel, what do we got? Paperclip. It'll go on our bench for Bud Black. Welcome back to another episode of Getaway Day. As always, I am Mason. Yes, my skin is blue. I'm very having lighting issues today. He is Gautham, and we are here to talk about pickleball.
Yay.
Mostly because MLB is kind of sitting there, twiddling their thumbs, playing with paper clips, using fidget spinners. Like, honestly, what are they doing down there? And don't give me the real answer, because I know what the real answer is, and we're going to talk about that at length. But what are they doing down there? Gee.
They are all playing pickleball. It's like a massive tournament. And I think the best pickleball player among all the presidents and the GMs has got to be Dave Dombrowski. He just looks like a pickleball guy.
See, I feel like it's Gabe Kapler, who is now an assistant GM. But that dude, he's athletic. He's very competitive. I feel like he destroys at pickleball, and he sits there, spikes in your face, and he just sits there and gloats.
Yeah, like, I could see that.
I'm picturing it. But no, I'm actually a little bit worried, since there's been so little coming out of the meetings, that we had another situation like we had with the GM meetings, where somebody touched poop and didn't wash their hands and gave them all the disease that I forget the name of it. That was definitely Cashman, right? Like, it had to have been Cashman.
Wow, I'm no comment there.
No comment? Okay.
No.
Well, but anyway, let's get right into this, because there's so much going on. And by so much going on, I mean there is absolutely nothing going on.
Well,
and it's
at least
problem.
That we know, right? Like, there's got to be stuff going on, and it's all just kind of going on behind the scenes.
Exactly. And pretty much every baseball reporter right now is blaming one person for the fact that they, quote unquote, have nothing to talk about. Maybe two people. They're blaming Shohei Ohtani and his agent. And Shohei is a very private person. He's in the public eye of basically every baseball watching country in the world. Like, he's the most popular baseball player, I would argue, isn't he?
It's got to be, right? In the world?
Yeah. So the dude wants a little bit of privacy to go through his free agency, talk with teams, kind of get an idea of where he fits. And reporters are furious that they're not allowed to know anything, because they want to sit there and talk about it and just like say the same thing ad infinitum, like they have been with the Juan Soto trade thing that's going on right now. Every single tweet today, we hear it's getting close. We hear it's getting closer. Yeah, you said it an hour ago and it hasn't happened. So let's shut up and talk about something else.
Yeah, your job, you write about baseball for a living. Like, you can't take one slow week. Like, come on. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, like you still write through the middle of freaking May.
Right.
There's nothing to talk about in May. But like every article, it seems right now is like straight up blaming Shohei for baseball being boring right now, and saying he has the perfect opportunity to make baseball the biggest thing on earth right now. It's like, okay, why don't you cover it in a way that's still intriguing, even though we don't have any information, instead of all of the headlines being Shohei Ohtani's secrecy is destroying baseball? Or Ken Rosenthal yesterday put out an article, why baseball must act to liven up the winter meetings. And I looked at the headline. It's like, okay, I'm in. It seems like it's going to be a logical article talking about just ways that we as a baseball community can liven things up. And then in the first two sentences have me on board. I'm going to quote this because I think this is just a funny quote. Quote, Earth to baseball, the winter meetings are supposed to be fun. At their best, the meetings are a combination of a spending orgy and swap meet. Then, the 2023 Shohei Delay Edition, on the other hand, is a colossal bore, a detriment to a sport that should be generating worldwide attention with the shock and awe signing of the game's biggest star. Close quote. And then he goes on for 3-4 paragraphs about how Shohei and his secrecy is making his job hard.
Right, yeah. And that's where he loses us, because it's not Shohei's or actually any of the team's obligation to be entertaining at the winter meetings. Like, that's not their jobs. That's not their roles in this situation. It's Shohei's job to find the best thing for him. And obviously he's making a major life decision. He's going to go probably live in a city for the next decade, and he's going to want to pick the right spot. He's got all the power in the situation. Like, it's his major decision. It's not anybody else's.
And as he rightfully points out, Shohei is the biggest free agent ever. Like, it's a dude who is a superstar hitter and a top 10 pitcher, which I guess a superstar pitcher. Yeah. So he's a superstar on both sides of the plate. So this has got to be incredibly stressful for him, because he knows that he's basically setting the market forever. Like, and that can't be an easy thing. He already is in a country that he didn't grow up in. Now he's trying to pick a new city in that different country, figure out where he's going to spend probably 12, 13 years. And the dude who's always in the limelight just wants a little bit of time to himself to figure it out. And MLB Network tonight, you know what they're talking about?
What are they talking about?
This is a real thing, mind you. They're talking about what they think his dog's name is, because he has not told anybody and refuses to tell anybody what his dog's name is, and what that means for where he's signing.
Oh, no.
That's what they're talking about on MLB Network.
Wow. We thought we sometimes struggle to come up with topics for our own podcast. These guys do this for a living, and they can't come up with anything better than...
Yeah, there are 26... There's 26 players on each active roster for 30 teams.
What a waste.
Plus minor league systems for all 30 of those teams. They can't find one other person to talk about for an hour?
Yeah. I don't.
It's ridiculous. It's even the same day as like a potential massive trade for Juan Soto for like the second time in 3 years. Second time in 2 years? 2 calendar years?
22, yeah.
Yeah. But it's Ohtani's fault. It's Ohtani's fault that everything's slow. Now, here's where I will give a little bit of credence to the point that he's trying to make. Things do hinge on where Ohtani goes.
Yes.
Because that is an awful lot of money that's going to be committed by a team to Shohei Ohtani. Some teams might be able to sign him and another big free agent. Most teams cannot. They get one guy of that magnitude, or they get a bunch of guys of a different magnitude. But it does kind of play into how the rest of their offseason is going to go.
It absolutely does, because there's only one team that's going to get Shohei, and all the teams that are supposedly in, or at least think they have any chance, are going to hold out that hope until the very last moment when
they are told they are out.
you are out. He is signing with X team. And then at that point, those teams, those big teams, because if we talk about specific teams here now, the teams that people think are in at this point, we're talking about the Dodgers, Blue Jays, the Giants, the Angels, maybe the Cubs, maybe another team. Who knows? We don't really know all what's going on, but one team's going to get Shohei, then the other teams will basically have to pivot and figure out what is plan B, because obviously plan A for all those teams would be to sign Shohei, and that does a lot of work in your offseason. But it's going to be a lot of teams scrambling, and it's really going to probably set off some interesting things that happen, because beyond Shohei, there's a massive drop off in terms of the talent that's available. We're going to talk about Juan Soto, so I'll leave him aside because he's obviously the next most talented guy that's probably going to be moved in this.
Well, there's one other guy, and that's Yoshinobu Yamamoto.
Right.
And he's also one of those guys that I think is going to dictate a portion of the market. But at least Shohei getting off the market opens it up for all hitters.
Yes,
period.
Exactly.
Whereas
when you look at free agent hitters, the next guy down is like Cody Bellinger. And that's like a huge drop off where a team could go crazy and give him like a $200 million contract. But when you get past him, then it's like there is nobody. It's not like last year offseason when there were a whole bunch of star players available. And basically every team that wanted a star could go out and get one, except the Giants, I think, right?
Pretty much, because the Giants had all their eggs in the baskets of the big guys, which I totally get.
Yeah. They just ended up on the short end of the stick there. But this year, there's going to be multiple teams that don't get what they're looking for. They're not going to land a star. It's just simply not going to happen because there aren't any stars left to land.
Which could work out in the favor of quite a few players here. Like guys like Matt Chapman, who are really, really solid players.
But no one thinks he's a star, though. Like, no one's mistaking Matt Chapman for a star player.
But it could work out in the favor of getting him a little bit more money because there's multiple teams that really need the services of an upgrade.
Right.
And a really good defensive third baseman, of which he is. Well, my cat just locked herself in the closet. Please hold.
I'll talk here. So, but yeah, so those big market teams have to be like going down multiple paths, basically, to say we can go pursue other pathways. Maybe that's trade, maybe that's sign multiple lower tier free agents and make that your successful offseason. But it's a way different thing than signing Shohei and then going from there. It's way easier when you sign the big star player.
Yeah, absolutely. But
let's talk about Yamamoto, actually.
Well, there's one more thing I want to talk about with Ohtani.
Okay.
And that's the thing that happened yesterday? Is today Wednesday?
Yes.
Yeah, so yesterday, Dave Roberts was giving a press conference.
This is great.
He was asked about Shohei and if they met with Shohei. And he paused for 4-5 seconds going, do I say anything? And then he just goes, yeah, we met with Shohei for about 3 hours. I think it went really well. He's our top priority, blah, blah, blah. And he went on for 20 minutes.
It's amazing.
After Shohei and his agent specifically said, and every other team has honored. And I have a theory about that. But every other team has honored his request to keep everything private, let him make his decision, and then we could talk. Dave Roberts, mid thing, got a text, looked at it, got a really serious face, and then ended up going to talk to the Dodgers PR group.
Well, yeah.
Friedman later was asked about Ohtani, and he goes, we have no comments as an organization. I believe Dave said something.
I love
And
that
then
Dave did that, though. It's so great because, like, anybody knows that the Dodgers were talking to Ohtani. It's not like a secret, really. Like,
yeah.
it wasn't something that had been stated. He just said like the thing that's supposed to be private. But the point that I want to make is about that storyline about Otani's wishes to keep things private, his agents saying that there may be repercussions for the teams that like leak stuff or whatever. I don't
Yeah.
believe that for a moment. It doesn't make any sense because if he gets the deal he's looking for and it's somehow been leaked or whatever, he's not going to like change his mind because of that.
So this is where kind of my brain goes, there might be a little to this, and it would be specifically that he very clearly wants to have a personal life away from the spotlight. He's in the spotlight all of the time. What organization can he go to that's going to honor his wishes to have a private life? And so if you can, throughout the month-long process of this, honor his wishes of not saying anything to the media until it's done, then it seems like an organization that's going to honor that. But if you go out and start blabbing, even though everybody knows that it's happening, like, can he truly trust that it's going to be a place where he can have his own life away from the spotlight, not have to share the name of his dog with Carl Ravitch and the guys on MLB Network? I do think that there might be something to it. Do I think it's going to preclude him from signing with the Dodgers? Absolutely not.
No chance. Yeah.
Like, it's not like Dave came out and said, we showed him this, this, and this. He said this thing about this. Then we started talking about numbers.
Because that is very strictly prohibited. You cannot discuss any negotiations you have with current free agents. And that's like a rule.
Yeah, you can't discuss negotiations, but you could say, we took him to just show him our facility, and he said this was a lovely facility. You could say that.
Yeah, yeah.
And Dave didn't say that.
Right, yeah.
He didn't get into any kind of specifics about what actually occurred. He just said he thinks it went well. Shohei is their top priority. Things like that, which, yeah, makes sense. Everyone gets it. So from that standpoint, I don't think this is going to preclude Ohtani from going to the Dodgers if they give him a $600 million contract. I honestly still think the Dodgers are the favorite for 80 million reasons.
Right.
Sure.
But Shohei's at home taking notes. He says Dave Roberts equals blabber. That's what he's got on his note page.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I do think that it's important to him that people respect his wish for some privacy, and that's what it's a test, basically, is what it is.
Right. And
totally fine.
I can expand that to some of the other teams that have potentially been involved, like the Blue Jays, because they supposedly had a meeting with him in Florida on Monday night, and the GM Ross Atkins of the Blue Jays was not at the winter meetings. John Schneider was not at the winter meetings till the second day, and they were not revealing their whereabouts. They were not saying that they had a meeting with Shohei, when it kind of seems like they did.
The one person who said something was not even from their organization. It was Mark Elias from the Orioles, who simply said, if I had the Dunedin facility, I'd be showing that off to anyone I could too. I wouldn't be surprised if they were there.
Right.
And that was literally all that came out about that. Like,
they asked Craig Counsell if he had met with Shohei. He said, no, I have not. Then they asked him, have the Cubs met with Shohei Ohtani? And he said, I have not met with Shohei Ohtani. So.
And then there were reports that he was seen going into Oracle Park, but Farhan's not said anything. No one in the Giants organization has said anything. And that's why I do think that there is some seriousness to that statement of it will keep you out of it. And people are worried that it might. And most teams are not willing to.
That's exactly what it is. Like, you don't necessarily know that it's going to have a big factor, but you're going to listen to the most important free agent of all time.
Which is why Friedman was very upset with Dave Roberts for saying what he did say, even though it was basically nothing.
Dave equals blabber.
Dave equals blabber. But yeah.
Yamamoto.
So Yamamoto it kind of makes this offseason interesting because Ohtani can drag this out for as long as he wants up until opening day. Yoshinobu Yamamoto has a completely different situation since he's coming over from what?
Do you know when the deadline is? The date?
What day was he posted for certain? It was like the 29th or the 30th or 30th or 1st.
I'll look it up while you're talking.
Yeah. So any player that's coming from the NPB has a 45-day posting window. So basically, as soon as the NPB tells the MLB that these guys are available, there is a 45-day negotiation window that they have to sign in, or they go back to their contract in the NPB. So Yoshinobu Yamamoto has a time clock, whereas Shohei did not. And his time clock started sometime at the early part of this month. I think it might have been the 30th of November, because I think it was that Thursday, if I remember right. So he basically has, let's see, it'd be 7, 14, 28, be what, 35, 42. He basically has until Sunday, January 14th. To pick a team and sign, and if he doesn't, he goes back to the NPB. So he has a negotiation window that he has to hit. So now you're starting to hear some teams that are.
I'll just quickly correct the dates there. So
all right,
he was posted on November 20th. So posting window open November 21st, goes till 4 p.m. Central on January 4th.
Oh, that's awkward. I was off by 10 days. Oops. I was in Canada. It was sometime while I was up there. That's all I knew.
They don't have calendars up there.
No, they don't.
That's why. That's obviously why John Schneider and Ross Atkins were late for the winter meeting.
Exactly, and they do have calendars. They're just all in the metric system.
Yeah.
So, whatever. But yeah. So Yamamoto, time clock. Ohtani, no time clock. Now you're starting to see some clubs, especially ones who have kind of been rumored to be out on the Ohtani sweepstakes, and some that have basically straight up said, we're out. There's no shot at us getting him now. Like the Yankees, like the Mets, who are starting to meet with Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Steve Cohen went over to Japan here last week and spoke with Dave Stearns and spoke with him. He's coming over on Monday or Tuesday, I forget which, to talk with the Yankees and Hal Steinbrenner. And Steinbrenner, at least as far as the Yankees are concerned, said he will go over $300 million in payroll this year if he has to. And that's the first time Hal's ever said that. His dad definitely would have said that a long time ago.
Yeah. And I know Brian Cashman is very much a fan of Yamamoto, just like pretty much everyone is. He went over and watched him during his no-hitter live, and he basically said, they asked him, like, did you learn anything? And he said, no, I knew so much about him right now. It was just cool to see it in person.
Yeah. And there's the Giants are supposedly suitors. The Cubs are supposedly suitors. The Blue Jays are supposedly suitors. Basically, everyone who's in on Ohtani is also now starting to talk to Yamamoto because only one of them is going to get Ohtani. And now that there's a clock running and we're now 15 days into that clock, we've only got a month to go until he's got to have a team. So things are starting to click there. And once he signs, then the offseason can start in earnest.
Yeah, before we get there, though, like, I just wanted to ask you what you think about Yamamoto and his potential signing price, because it's going to be very, very high based on all the reports that we've seen.
So what was the numbers for Masahiro Tanaka?
So Masahiro Tanaka had, I think it was 144 million for 6 years.
I thought it was bigger than that. I thought it was closer to.
So this one, people are projecting he's going to just absolutely blow that Tanaka contract out of the water.
Yeah, which is why. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, $155 million for Masahiro Tanaka.
Okay.
Who signed with the Yankees at the same age that Yamamoto is now. He was also the Cy Young, in air quotes, of the MPB. The Sawamura Award? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was the Sawamura Award winner over in Japan as well. However, Yamamoto was seen as even higher caliber than Tanaka was when he came over. And with the way the salaries have been going and everything, there's people expecting that he's going to be up in like the $300 million range. And it doesn't really feel all that far off, especially given some of the pitching market and how it is right now. Because after Ohtani and after Yamamoto, you still have some really good pitchers on the market. You have Blake Snell, you have Jordan Montgomery, but those are not the same tier.
Yeah,
like Blake Snell's a 2-time Cy Young winner.
Yeah,
but he's not 25, and he's kind of inconsistent throughout the course of a season. End of season results might be pretty consistent. Throughout the season,
Yeah, and he's even had some bad seasons in there. So, a guy like Yamamoto, obviously the talent is not really in question. It's just like, aren't you scared to give $300 million to a guy that's never pitched in MLB?
I would be a little bit concerned, yes, but I do think that the WBC goes a long way in kind of helping to show the ability to play over here in the MLB.
Yeah.
And as far as pitching is concerned, I don't think there's as big of a difference between the MPB and the MLB from a pitching standpoint as there is from a hitting standpoint. Like, I feel like just generally, pitchers do have an easier time coming over than a lot of hitters do. You see a lot more success with pitchers coming over than with hitters. Now, obviously, that's not an every situation sort of thing, but just kind of general trends feel that way.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because obviously Tanaka happened a while ago. Maybe he's not the best comparison for right now, but if you just look back a year ago, Kodai Senga, he had an amazing rookie year. Like, guy is probably a top like 25, 30 starting pitcher in MLB today. And he was not even close to the amount of hype that there is around Yamamoto. So
exactly.
That's exactly what can give you a lot of confidence that it's going to go really well.
Well, and the guy that kind of reminds me of the way that Kodai Senga was talked about last year is Imananga. There's nobody talking about him. He's also pretty young. He's what, 26, 27?
I think
somewhere
he's
around
30.
There?
Yeah.
Is he? I thought he was younger than that. But he's kind of in the same boat as Kodai Senga. Just as far as he was really successful over in the MPB, he played really well in the WBC. He's been posted to come over this year. Nobody's really talking about him, but he could really take off next year. He's got really good stuff. Basically, all of those guys throw splitters, which is just absolutely mind-boggling to me. Because it seems like hitters in the MLB have not figured out how to hit a splitter since they went away in like the 80s.
Yeah, splitters are like the best pitch when they're actually executed well. Like, no one can hit those.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be as concerned, going back to the main point, I wouldn't be as concerned about Yamamoto as I would be about giving the same amount of money to, say, Murataka Murakami if he were to come over this year. Like, $300 million is a lot of money. That's a long commitment. I would feel more confident giving it to Yamamoto than Murakami, who is one of their best hitters, period. Yeah. And he's also 25.
Yeah, he's like Japanese Babe Ruth.
Yeah. So, well, Ohtani was Japanese Babe Ruth.
Yeah, true.
I feel like Murakami is more not Mantle. Mantle would have been who's a good.
I was gonna say Hank Aaron, but
Albert Pujols.
Okay, slugger.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Like one of the greatest hitters in history, Albert Pujols. So I feel like that's a good fit. First baseman, doesn't pitch. So But yeah, so those are the two things that are kind of keeping everything slow. Does that seem fair?
Yeah. I think that once those things happen and they seem like they're going to happen soon, right? Like there have been
One
more
does.
reports that Ohtani is probably going to sign by the end of the week or something like that.
Yep.
Um,
And things are starting to pick up with Yamamoto. We're starting to hear him coming to the States to have meetings, which he said he wasn't going to do until after the 1st of December, which now we're in second week of December almost. So, but then once that happens, we'll start seeing some stuff. But there were a lot of complaints that the biggest names that have come up in the winter meetings so far that have actually moved teams have been like Alex Verdugo and
small signings like Wade
Yeah.
Miley signed back with the Brewers, and a couple relief pitchers have signed with new teams like Kirby Yates to the Rangers and Chris Davinsky with the Rays, I think, and nothing like earth shattering, basically.
So, like, I completely get what every fan and every writer is saying. Like, we want something to happen. We're waiting on something entertaining, especially the people who are paying attention right now are the baseball diehards.
I've been locked in on this stuff, honestly. Like I've been entertained by just like the intrigue of what's going to happen, especially after it actually happens, just like the anticipation of the big moves happening because I know how crazy it's going to get like right after that happens.
Yeah. But it just I think it's a little bit unfair the coverage that a lot of the slow winter meetings has been getting from actual like professional paid journalists and content creators alike, because they're all kind of saying the exact same thing. And I think people forget that these are humans that we're talking about. Like, I don't want people following me every single minute of the day. I would like to be able to use the bathroom without someone asking me a question about where I'm going to be working in a month.
And your dog's name.
And my dog's name. My cat, on the other hand, I will always tell you her name is Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts. Named after Mookie Betts. I just have Marcus Lynn Betts just over there. He's hanging out playing video games. He's a cool cat.
He is.
But yeah, so I guess now that I've complained a lot about how things have been covered, let's talk about the thing that they've been obsessing over since they finished obsessing over not being able to obsess over Ohtani. That was complicated. Juan Soto.
This should be bigger news, to be honest, right? Like, this is an absolute, like, super stud player, probably like top 10 superstar in the league, getting traded. Once again, this just happened a year and a half ago, and it's about
for
to happen
a
again.
massive haul the first time. If I can remind you all, Keibert Ruiz. Keibert was first. He was in the. I'm thinking the wrong trade. Shoot, my brain just went Trey Turner and Scherzer. No, sorry. This is from the Padres. So this was Robert Hassel, James Woods, Mackenzie Gore. There's one other. CJ Abrams.
There were like a couple other guys too.
One or two really low prospects that I don't remember their names. But those were 4 top 100 prospects. Or 3 top 100s, one guy who had just graduated prospect status, and Mackenzie Gore, but was a top 100 prospect that went back to the Nats for 2.5 years of Juan Soto. Now, a year and a half in, he's about to go to the Yankees for potentially, along with possibly Trent Grisham, for Michael King, Drew Thorpe, Johnny Brito, Randy Vasquez, and Major League catcher Kyle Higashioka. Like, those guys have all played in the majors so far, or already. But they're all really young, controllable players.
Not Thorpe.
Thorpe is not?
Thorpe's a prospect. He pitched in high A and double A this past season, and he he might have had the best pitching season of any minor leaguer this year. He led he had like a ridiculous number of strikeouts, and it was his first pro season as a 22-year-old, and he just absolutely dominated. So he's kind of becoming a really big name at this point. And then the Padres have a desperate need for starting pitching specifically. So they get guys
youth.
like and youth. So Randy Vasquez, Johnny Brito, those guys are not superstars, but they're the depth that every team needs, especially the Padres, who desperately need it.
And Michael King is right now, he's a really good pitcher. You need him now. He slots right into your opening day rotation. Kyle Higashioka to help solidify the catcher position, which was a little.
Yes.
So, this is a big deal for the Padres if this happens.
It's a big haul. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it's a lot to give up, but it's Juan Soto. So both teams are happy, right? About this one?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the Yankees know that an in-season. Oh, Mookie's going to lay on the keyboard and press a whole bunch of buttons. It's going to mess some stuff up. The Yankees know that an in-season extension is probably out of the question with Soto being a Boras client. Doesn't mean that they won't have a good shot if they pony up the money in the next offseason to sign him back. And I think they're betting on that. They're betting on seeing if he can perform in New York, if he likes performing in New York. He's a left-handed hitter with a short porch. He's going to love it. Of course you give this up for a generational talent, even if it's just for a year. And you hope that in the same way that Matt Holliday was with the Cardinals back in 2012 when he signed, 2010 when he signed. I can't remember the year off the top of my head. But you hope that he comes in, tests free agency, and goes, I really liked it there. Let's get it done. And the Yankees can still give him a massive contract that he deserves.
Yeah.
So
I feel like Soto is like the perfect Yankee too. Like, he's going to do super well there. He seems to have no issue with handling media, or he's been doing it for a million years and he's still 25 years old.
Yeah, he's been doing it since he was 17.
And guy with Aaron Judge in that lineup, those two guys back to back, it's just one guy, but it does so much to their lineup. It just makes them way, way, way better, in my opinion. I think it's going to be massive for this team.
Yeah, and this is a Yankees team that has been trying to get two superstar hitters in the same lineup for a long time.
It just hasn't worked out. You can't blame Cashman for not trying.
Yeah, I mean,
to acquire other
Giancarlo
stars.
Stanton, when he came over, was a superstar hitter. Judge wasn't there yet.
He was there.
Then, not at the very beginning, was he?
Yeah, he got. They.
Or was that his rookie season?
It was right after Judge's rookie season when Giancarlo won the MVP in 2017. He got traded right after that season.
Right. Okay. So they were together, but then it just never really worked out health-wise with Giancarlo and Judge to be on the field at the same time most of the time. Gary Sanchez didn't really turn out to be what they were hoping he would be. Gleyber Torres didn't until recently start showing a lot more of his.
And he's still not really a superstar.
No, he's a lot better than what he was a couple years ago. And he's living closer to what people thought he would be, but he's not that guy. But Juan Soto is that guy. He's still only 23 or 24.
24, yeah.
Yeah. And Aaron Judge is that guy. He's on the wrong side of 30 now, but the dude is massive. He pulverized 37 home runs when he was on the field last year, on pace for another 55 or 52 or 55 homer season if he were on the field the whole year. The dude's not going anywhere as far as a force at the plate.
Yeah.
And Soto doesn't have injury issues either.
Yeah, with Soto batting in front of him, Aaron Judge may have 150 RBI this season. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, because Soto's going to lead the league in walks again still.
Yeah, that's just what he does. And then Judge himself is a huge OBP guy, and obviously his power is very well known. Like
Yeah,
it's
and
it's gonna be fun.
you can't walk both of them every time either. So
And if
it's
you
going to
do,
open a
like,
lot of opportunities.
yes, absolutely.
Because if you do, then you either have Giancarlo or Glaber or somebody behind Jason Dominguez next year, probably batting right behind him. So this is potentially going to be a really, really scary Yankees lineup for the first time in a long time by adding one guy.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't add one guy. They're potentially adding three guys because they just traded for Alex Verdugo, which not the flashiest thing in the world, not the absolute best hitter in the world or the best outfielder, but Verdugo is a solid outfielder who I think is going to help solidify the defense a little bit. He is another left-handed hitter, so that'll be a benefit to him with the short porch. Like, that could potentially work out really well. And it forces him to shave that really ugly beard. Big fan. Big fan of that trade.
No, I don't know. Like, to me, the trade is like not super significant. Like, the Yankees obviously needed outfield help, so that's why they're doing it. But I don't think he's like an average player at best.
I think he's better than when they had Aaron Hicks trying to run out in left field every time that he was healthy. Like, that's where I think this is a benefit, is they've had 1 to 2 outfielders at a time. They've never had a third guy who is actually like, hey, just put him in and just leave him.
Yeah.
And I think Verdugo can be that, put him in and leave him. He's not anything stellar.
Yeah.
If they get Trent Grisham along with Soto, they've basically already said he would be a fourth outfielder, a late defensive substitution for Soto, who is a terrible outfielder.
No, that was the point that I was going to get to. Like, Grisham makes a lot of sense in this whole scenario because the whole outfield is very shaky at best because you're kind of banking on Aaron Judge taking the bulk of the center field rep because you've got really bad defender Soto in left field, most likely, and Verdugo, who's also not very good in right field.
I would argue that you leave Verdugo in left, put Soto in right, because if anything gets over Soto's head, it's over the wall anyway.
Yeah, either way, those guys are not superior defenders. But you've got Grisham, who's fantastic as a center fielder. So he's the guy you can bring in late game. You can shift Judge over to the corner, bring one of the other two guys out, and then you've got a very good defense for late innings when you've got Judge in right field and Grisham in center.
Yeah, and they wouldn't be hurting giving up some of these guys that they've got. Like, the Yankees are kind of starting to bleed their depth on the pitching side, which is a little bit of a problem, which is why they're still in on Yamamoto and said that they're willing to go 300 mil, because they know that to get Soto, you're going to have to give up a starter in Michael King. You're going to have to give up a prospect in Drew Thorpe. Two guys who Johnny Brito has started some games. He's pitched out of the pen. Randy Vasquez, I don't really know. I think he's a reliever. Is that right?
He's like a depth starter, essentially.
Depth starter. Yeah. So you're giving up your depth and one of your starters, and Kyle Higashioka, one of their catchers. But
you can almost think that they traded essentially like their number 3 starter and King, and then they're like 5 and they're 6. So that's like a lot to give up.
And their backup catcher. But luckily, they still have Jose Trevino. They have Austin Wells. Like, from a catcher standpoint, they're probably fine. So giving up Higgy, not that big of a deal.
No, but I mean, the pitching depth could be a bit of a concern. They also lost some guys in that Verdugo trade for pitchers. They also lost some guys in the Rule 5 draft today.
Yeah, they lost, what was it, 5 guys total in the Rule 5 draft?
Oh, I didn't even.
Like,
I don't know.
It was like three or four guys they lost all in the major league portion.
Yeah, so that's quite a hit that they've taken. But we've talked about this before, that the Yankees' time to win is right now. When Aaron Judge is upright, Garrett Cole is in his prime right now. Like, they can't take this slowly. They've got to go right now. It's time to win for the New York Yankees.
Yeah, and by bringing in Soto, the other thing that it does that I think is maybe, I don't want to say being overlooked, because I think it's just something that hasn't really been considered yet, just in general, is the fact that bringing in a generational talent like Soto actually gives Volpe and Dominguez just a little bit of relief from pressure. because they're being expected to come out and be absolute superstars. And both of those guys could be and potentially will be. But this is going to help give them a little bit of slack in maybe an off week or whatever. If Soto's still getting on base, you're still scoring, you're still winning, and Judge isn't carrying the whole team by himself, it buys a little bit of slack for some of these younger guys who are still adjusting to the majors. So that's another thing that should not be overlooked in this. So this could be huge for this Yankees team and put them right back at being a World Series contender.
Yeah. I mean, do you want to talk about it from the Padres side at all? Like, it feels like they had to do this deal just because of their financial situation.
Yeah.
And
which is also why they're saying that Jake Cronenworth is available for trades, because he's got kind of a big contract that not really looking the best right now. So they're trying to offload some stuff while knowing that some of their other big contracts are superstars that didn't play like it last year, but could get back to that. And right now their trade value is not that high anyway with their big contracts and Manny Machado and Xander Bogaerts. So getting 30 mil off the books from Soto, Grisham isn't really paid all that much. I think still maybe, is he early ARB?
He's late ARB, but he's like a $4 million guy.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, still, that's $35 million right there in this trade alone. If you trade Cronenworth, like, you're potentially getting close to that $50 million that they're essentially losing from Bally going under last year, or dropping them last year and going under next year. Mm-hmm. So it's unfortunately necessary for them. And it's a team that, doesn't want to do that. It's like the one team in the majors that does not want to cut payroll just to cut payroll. Like, now that Seidler unfortunately passed away, things are also in a bit of flux here too. So there's just a lot of uncertainty with the Padres franchise. It's really unfortunate, but I think this package could end up being kind of a saving grace for that too. Because it's not like you're just giving him away like the Rockies did with an Arenado. You're not sending $50 million along with 1 year of Juan Soto. Yeah, you're getting legit stuff back.
It's a legitimate baseball trade, and the Padres are not just like trying to punch on their season either. They're like trying to win this year as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think this trade makes sense for both sides. I wish that we could keep Soto in San Diego. I just think that'd be really fun. But I mean, honestly, I don't hate this either. As much as I really don't want the Yankees to get more superstars. Like,
I don't know, man. I think baseball's better when the Yankees are good.
Yeah, but then I can't make fun of Yankees fans, and that's less fun.
You can probably still make fun of them when they're underperforming or something.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right. We've got a couple other things that we probably need to talk about before we get on out of here today. Biggest free agent signing so far of the winter meetings happened today. 1 year, $13 million. Future, maybe Hall of Famer, closer, Dirty Craig, Kimbrel.
Yeah.
I'm holding my parrot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Craig Kimbrel signed with the Baltimore Orioles today for a 1 year, $13 million to kind of come in and I guess kind of take the setup role.
I think he's going to close, they said.
Is he?
Yep. So with
Bautista being out with Tommy John.
Bautista's out for the season. Kimbrel's the proven closer. He actually had a pretty good season last year. People don't realize that because
the postseason wasn't exactly great. And that's the part that people remember is the postseason. Like, his season was good. His postseason was.
It's like, I feel like people like to really rag on Craig Kimbrel these days. Like, it's been going on for a few years now, and for some good reasons, because he's had some like very inopportune blow up games, but generally, like, he's still a very good, maybe not elite reliever at this point, but like, he's really good.
Yeah.
And the Orioles they just want some guy that can do the closer gig here for a year, basically.
Yeah, it does feel a little bit like it might have been an overpay. Like, I think you could have got Kimbrel cheaper, but it keeps them from having to get into some of these bidding wars, and it's a 1-year deal, and so like they're not really screwed here at all. So good signing. I like it. I don't think that that's necessarily the only thing they need to be doing this offseason. They very much are in need of some starting pitchers.
Yeah.
Because they lost Kyle Gibson. Jack Flaherty's a free agent.
Yeah, and they don't really have like a whole lot of elite guys beyond maybe Grayson. So
yeah, and he had a rough off and on rookie season. Better at the end.
Really good at the end, yeah.
But let's see. The draft lottery.
Draft lottery, yeah.
So, second year of the MLB draft lottery is underway. The lottery just happened here yesterday.
Yes.
And the first overall pick of the 2024 MLB Summer Amateur Draft goes to, drumroll please, the Cleveland Indians. Yay!
Who had a 2% chance to win the lottery?
Something like that. It was low.
Yeah.
Like,
so now every team that doesn't make the postseason has got at least some, even if it's minuscule, chance to get the number one pick. And Cleveland was a lucky winner this year.
Which I do still like the idea of multiple teams having a chance at the first pick. I'm personally a little frustrated, and you'll understand why in a minute if you haven't already checked out the order. But the second pick, the Cincinnati Reds, who were 82 and 80 on the season.
They were just like 2 games out of making the playoffs.
2 games out of making the playoffs. Then you have the Colorado Rockies, who I think had the third best odds and ended up with the third pick, if I'm not mistaken. So, okay, makes sense. Then you have the Oakland A's at 4, the Chicago White Sox at 5, and the insert team here at 6. I forget who it was. And then the St. Louis Cardinals, who had the 5th best odds, end up with the 7th pick, which is really frustrating for me because we've not had a top 10 pick since 1998 when we had the number 3. I was really looking forward to the Cardinals potentially getting a generational player in the first 2 or 3 picks if they were available. It kind of feels like an opportunity that the Cardinals would actually go maybe above slot if there was a guy worth it. Since they never get to pick there ever. So, unfortunately, that's not going to be the case. And the Cardinals don't have a second round pick because we signed Sonny Gray to $75 million contract. Yeah. So,
I think the biggest thing that I want to talk about with the draft lottery is the 3 teams that didn't get top 6 picks. So they dropped down 10 spots because they were repeat luxury tax offenders. So that's the Padres, the Yankees, and the Mets. And they all, dropped down 10 spots, which means those middle teams all bumped up 3 spots. And that's like, we always talk about on this podcast, like, who cares? It's just money, just you can spend it. But there's actual competitive reasons to reset your luxury tax, because then you start paying not just monetary tax penalties, you end up paying draft capital, and that's like a bigger deal.
Yeah, which this is one of the first times that we've ever seen that.
Yes.
And so I do think that kind of plays a little bit into why the Padres are offloading a little bit of their money as well.
You've got to reset at some point, otherwise it becomes prohibitive. You can't keep giving up all your draft picks and all your money.
Yeah. Unless you're a team that's already always in the playoffs and you're always picking 26th.
But, even a team like the Dodgers that is always picking 25 plus, they reset their luxury tax last year. So Now
Yeah.
they can probably go over and not have to suffer the consequences, and then at some point they'll come under again, and that's the way that's the way the system's set up right now, and that's what teams
Yeah.
have to do.
But so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Obviously, we still have an entire amateur season to play before we even start to kind of guess who's going to go number one. Not that you and I really pay much attention to college and high school baseball anyway. So, but the Cleveland Ians, congratulations. The team that seems to always have prospects gets the number one pick, and then
They've never had the number one pick, which I thought was kind of.
They've never had the number one pick, but they always have some pretty darn good prospects in their system that always end up going elsewhere to be good. But they're in their system. And kind of the same with the Reds right now. Like the Reds have a really good system and a really young team, and they get the number two, and it just feels dirty. Because like I get the system is working the way that we set up the system. Totally fine with that. Just in this particular instance, having both of those teams back to back just feels dirty.
Yeah, I guess I don't really see it that way. I think you're just a little bitter about the Cardinals falling to 7.
That's also very much part of it. I don't want the Reds picking before the Cardinals.
Fair enough.
So, but yeah. Couple other things to note. The trade block just got a lot less fun. Michael Nelson Trout will be a Los Angeles Angel of Anaheim Angel. How do you, a Los Angeles? He will still be a Los Angeles Angel of Anaheim.
That works.
All right, cool. We're going with that. For at least the next season. So prior to or kind of right at the end of the regular season, I guess, Perry Manassian basically said that, or maybe it was Artie, I don't remember. They said if Trout wanted out, they will honor his request. Sounds like he's off the table, so it sounds like he wants to stick around.
How bad are the Angels, to be honest? Like, they're quite bad.
Yeah,
They have some interesting, promising young players, actually, like Zach Neto, Nolan Samuel.
But like, after them, it's abysmal. There's nobody in the farm system, period.
Quite tough, yeah.
Nelson Rada maybe might be their biggest prospect.
I don't even know who that is.
Exactly. So, but I think that might be true that Nelson Rada is their top prospect. Angels top 30 prospects. But how big do you think it is that that Trout is no longer on the trade block?
Well, I think it's not super, it doesn't mean a whole lot. It's not surprising news to me, but we might be getting to a point where Mike Trout gets fed up, actually. Like he's probably a little fed up, but he's a loyal guy. Like he's loyal to his team. Like that's kind of admirable, but at some point he may, reach his breaking point. One of these.
Well, and this is going to be the first season where I think it's legitimately just been him. Like,
well, since before Shohei, right?
Well, there was still like guys like Albert Grant. Their results really weren't
better. They were the same. Yeah,
but there were still other stars. There were still other players that were in their past of a high caliber that he could talk ball with and get tips from and improve and things like that. So I feel like there's almost no learning opportunities for Trout anymore. Like there's no one else that's like of his caliber or better at some point in their career for him to talk with. Like he's got Wash, which is, I think he's going to like that. But if the team doesn't do well, they don't have any prospects, if they don't sign anybody and they just tank, like, yeah, I would want out of there too. Yeah. It's a no-win situation for him at this point. He gets paid a lot of money to play baseball, but it's meaningless baseball pretty much always, which is unfortunate because he's
never meaningless.
It is for the Angels pretty much always. It's a little harsh, but
that was really
yeah, but I don't know. I kind of feel like that might be true though. Like he's until Shohei came over, he was the generational player. Like of the last 3 generations, Mike Trout was that guy. Like he's still good, and he's just in a place where it doesn't even feel like it matters that he's there. So I would love to see him somewhere else, but if he wants to stick around, kudos. I respect his loyalty there. But I did check. I was almost right. Nelson Rada is their number 2 prospect after Nolan Shanwell.
Oh, okay.
So Nolan Shanwell, Caden Dana is the one in between, and then Nelson Rada. So I was so close.
I still have no idea who that is. So
yeah, I'm guessing you don't know who Caden Dana is either.
I do not.
Yeah, I don't know who he is. And last thing that we have on the agenda, no, we have one more after this. Mookie Betts is going to be the full-time second baseman for the Los Angeles Dodgers in the 2024 season.
Yeah, speaking of superstars that have been traded in their careers, like, oof, that's a tough one for the Red Sox, and it always will be.
The Dodgers won the trade.
Yeah, and then
there are no players left on the Red Sox or in that organization that were in that trade. There are none.
Connor Wong, he's not still there.
Didn't he get DFA'd? Did he not?
He's a solid catcher. But yeah, like you can't win the trades where you trade the superstar. Like,
okay, Connor Wong's still there, but Connor Wong is the last one.
We're surprised that we're okay with the Padres side of the Soto trade, because usually the side that has the superstar is always the winning side of the deal.
Yeah, and usually you can tell that too. Like,
yeah.
But although I would almost argue that the Nats came out ahead.
Maybe.
But just because the team that they specifically traded with no longer has him. So it's like you lose the trade for Soto just because you weren't able to get it done with him in a year and a half. But then you also win a trade regarding Soto. So it's kind of a wash overall.
I think jury's still out on the result of that trade, because most of the guys haven't even debuted yet, right?
Half, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, point taken. But still, and CJ Abrams is a good player though. Like he started to pop off in the second half of the year. So like the talent's definitely there. Okay. Last thing before we get on out of 2 last things. Real quick, 10-second thoughts. Jackson Churio 82 with 2 team options.
Team options, yeah. So biggest deal for a non-debuted MLB player in history. Brewers obviously like this because if Churio goes out and wins the Rookie of the Year this year, he's probably going to start out as the favorite. And from all accounts, he's like a super talented, amazing young player that's going to probably be awesome from day one, or could be awesome from day one. Like, they would have no opportunity to sign him to a long-term deal if they don't do it this instant. And for Churio, obviously, like, how do you say no to $82 million guaranteed dollars
when you've never played AAA?
Yeah. So it's a great deal for both sides. Like, I got no issues with this.
Yeah, and I mean, if he performs, like, you're buying out 2 years. He's still going to be a free agent at 30. He's not like they're really.
I think it's under 30 because
is it 29?
The guy's like 19 or 20 at this point. Yeah.
Okay, so you're still at free agency at your normal free agency age for most players. So it's not like it's taking him out of a whole bunch of his like prime years. It is, but it's not. And I think the team options are actually like 15 mil or something.
They're like
20
30 million or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So like they're big. But yeah. Cool. So the last thing, Jerry Dipoto showed up and Jerry DiPoto things. He made a trade. I would argue he lost the trade, probably. But Jared Kelenic and Marco Gonzalez and one other, right?
Yeah, Evan White.
There we go. Traded to the Atlanta Braves. I almost said Atlanta Dodgers. That's the Atlanta Braves for.
So I
don't even remember who went back
Jackson
the other
way. Former top prospect that's already been traded once.
This offseason.
So he was a Braves for about 5 minutes. And then a young prospect recovering from Tommy John who's never pitched a single inning professionally by the name of Cole Phillips. He was a second-round pick in 2022.
Well, all right then. So this is very much a money dump trade. Marco Gonzalez still had a fairly decent amount on his contract for 1 or 2 more years, something like that. Evan White had the previous, I guess 2 contracts ago for a player who hadn't made his major league debut. Biggest contract.
Yeah, he had a fairly big one, and he's the like downside case of what can happen with these. Sometimes it just doesn't work out, and
yeah, like his was I think 40 million total.
Yeah, it wasn't like crazy, but it's a lot of money to pay a AAA player.
Yeah. So he went over to the Braves. Kelenic went over to the Braves. Marco Gonzalez went to the Braves, who was then promptly traded to the Pittsburgh Pirates for a player to be named later and cash. I kind of like this from the Braves standpoint. So you take on some money, you get a high upside guy who has really struggled to get going in his career in Jared Kelenic. He is a talented left-handed hitter. Every time he ends up going down to AAA, he just absolutely rakes. And then he comes back up to the majors and he really, really struggles. And it just seems like maybe there's something going on coaching-wise over in Seattle that just wasn't clicking with him. I don't know. He started really hot last year. You could see why he was a number 6 overall pick by the Mets a couple of years ago, who was ultimately in the Edwin Diaz trade. But that's the guy that the Braves see and think that they can unlock. Yeah. And they needed a left fielder. So it seems like a good flyer for a team who has one of the best offenses in the league, no matter who's playing left field.
Yeah, exactly. Like the pressure is quite low on Kelenic now. He doesn't have to be like when he was on the Mariners, he was literally hitting like in the middle of their order, and he wasn't even that great. He basically had that hot month to start last year, and then from there he just was pretty bad actually.
Well, and then he kicked a bench or whatever and broke his foot, and that kind of
help. Right.
Definitely derailed things.
When he's on the Braves here, he's probably going to sit against lefties because he struggled against lefties throughout his career. And then he'll probably hit down in the order like 8th or 9th, probably 8th. And
there's a very good chance that Snit gives him a chance against lefties too. Like if he plays well against righties, he'll start getting some more at bats. And there's a chance that, especially with the talent that he has showed in the minors, and the reason he was drafted as high as he was, is he's a talented player. He could figure it out. I think it's just going to require some more coaching and selective opportunities.
Yeah.
So
and the Braves have done some great things with young hitters over the years here. So they know what they probably identified already what they want to do with Kelenic before he's even played for them.
Oh yeah, just look at what they did when they completely rebuilt their outfield with Jock Peterson, Eddie Rosario, and Adam Duvall a couple years ago. Like none of them were.
Oh, that was like a trade deadline thing.
I mean, yes, but like my point being that those guys, none of them were like absolute elite bats. And then they all came in and they performed like absolute elite bats for a couple months. Like imagine a guy who's actually got the talent to do this, being 24 years old, mind you, 5 years of team control going into that system. If they can fix his swing, this could be a huge, huge win for Alex Anthopoulos, who it seems like can't lose. So
I I think more interesting is the Mariners side. It's unfortunate. It's really disappointing, actually, that this Mariners team that's should be primed for a pretty decent stretch of being a contender in the division, making playoffs and stuff. They look like they're taking a step back. We don't know what they're going to do with the rest of the offseason. They're clearly going to try to compete, but this is not like going out and getting a big bat. This is like it doesn't help the team in the present at all.
There was a lot of hope. I think it was known false hope, but there was a lot of hope among Mariners fans for the first couple days after that was maybe setting the Mariners up to make a bigger push for Ohtani or make a push to trade for Soto or get some of these big bats. Because with Julio, with J.P. Crawford breaking out, with Cal Raleigh, like Luis Castillo and this rotation, Logan Gilbert and George Kirby and Emerson Hancock coming up, Brian, like it feels like they should be upgrading this team. If you have to money dump and give up Kelenic, it seemed like they'd given up on Kelenic anyway. So take that 30 mil or whatever you've saved, put it back into the team. But it feels like this is just a money cutting move and they're not going to do anything is what it feels like now.
Yeah. And they need some serious help in that lineup because they traded Eugenio Suarez. Like I don't know. Like I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see the Mariners going out and making a big move.
I don't either. I think Jerry will make a couple more small trades, but it's really all I can see happening.
Trade for Randy, that would be great.
That would be pretty great. I do think there's still a world where there's a win-win trade for the Cardinals and them. I don't think it's going to happen, but there's definitely some things that could be done that would help both clubs there a lot. Yeah. But we'll see. Honestly, Jerry might get Tyler O'Neill back. I would not be surprised about that.
Yeah, if the Cardinals ever decide they want to actually trade someone.
They've already decided they actually want to trade Tyler O'Neill. And then Ryan Helsley basically subtweeted him in a comment and said that he thinks the reason the Cardinals performed so bad is there were some people that had bad attitudes. And things kind of check out that he was talking about Tyler O'Neill.
Oof.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't surprise me, I guess.
Yeah. All right. I think that's really all we've got time for today. Do you have anything else that you would like to throw in real quick?
Look at us. We just talked for like an hour plus here. We had no issues. We could have kept going. And all these baseball writers say there's nothing to talk about and they're bored. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about, let's see, who did we talk about? We talked about why Jarrett Kelenic is actually maybe a good thing here. Jackson Churio. Like, we talked about a lot of stuff. We did not make a single guess on Ohtani's dog's name, Fido. Dang it. I was really trying not to do that. It's also why he's not going to the Dodgers, because Dave Roberts wasn't loyal enough not to speak.
No, blabber.
Blabber. All right. That is it for us for tonight. Thank you very, very much. We will see you all back here next week. Hopefully, there's a slight chance that Gautam might have to do that on his own, but we'll keep you in the loop there. Thank you very much, and we will see you next time.
If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcasting app and YouTube to make sure you don't miss any future episodes. Join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Getaway Day Pod. If you enjoy card collecting, check out our sister YouTube channel,